mop water had already turned grey, the way it always did by midnight, salt and city grime blending into something neither clean nor dirty, just tired. Ethan Cole leaned on the handle, flexing his fingers. The building hummed the way high-rises do at night, elevators sighing in their shafts, heating pipes knocking softly like distant footsteps. Most floors were empty now. The marketing teams had gone home in a rush, leaving half-empty coffee cups on their desks, their screens still glowing with frozen spreadsheets. Somewhere above, the CEO's office light still burned, a square of gold against the January dark. Ethan preferred this time of night. No one barking orders, no one looking past him like he wasn't there. Just silence, the hum of the buffer, the smell of lemon wax. He had just turned the corner by the stairwell when he heard it, thin, wavering, like a kitten trapped in a storm drain. A cry. He froze. Not the wind through a cracked door, not the hiss of the radiator. A child's cry, soft and sharp all at once. "Hello?" His voice came out rough from hours of quiet. He set the mop against the wall and pulled open the stairwell door. Cold air kissed his face. The stairwell was lit by a single flickering bulb 3 floors up, throwing more shadow than light, and there, on the landing between the 10th and 11th floor, sat a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 5, bundled in a coat too thin for the season, knees pulled to her chest, one mitten missing. In her arms, she clutched a stuffed rabbit, its fur worn thin. Her cheeks were blotched red from crying. Ethan's heart kicked. Hey, what are you doing out here?" She didn't answer, just stared up at him with wide, wet eyes, half fear, half hope. He climbed the stairs slowly, hands out where she could see them. "It's okay, I work here. My name's Ethan. I'm the janitor." Up close he saw that, a tremor in her lips. The frost caught in her hair. Someone had left her here, that much was clear. "Are you lost?" he asked. Her fingers tightened around the rabbit. She nodded. Barely. Ethan crouched so they were eye level. He didn't reach for her, not yet. "Where are your parents? Is someone looking for you?" She sniffled. I don't know. Mommy was talking to people. And then I couldn't find her." The words cracked halfway through, like ice splitting on a pond. Ethan exhaled through his nose. He'd seen all kinds of carelessness in this building, late-night parties, interns left behind to clean up. But a child, alone in a stairwell in January, that was new. "Well, we can't stay here," he said gently. "It's freezing, and you're shaking." Her gaze flicked to the door behind him, as if expecting someone else to burst through. No one did. "Do you know your mum's name?" he asked. She whispered it. "Sophia." Ethan nodded, storing it away. "All right, Sophia's girl. Let's find her. But first, let's get you somewhere warm, okay?" The girl hesitated, then inched closer. The rabbit dangled between them like a white flag. He offered his hand. She slipped her tiny, cold fingers into his. The building suddenly felt different to him. Colder, bigger, like every shadow could hold the reason she was left behind. Somewhere above, the CEO's light still burned. Somewhere below, the night stretched out like a sheet of black ice. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "Come on, kiddo. Let's get you out of the cold." The girl's hand was so small it barely wrapped around his finger. Her skin was chilled, papery. Ethan guided her through the dim hallway, past the locked offices and humming vending machine, toward the janitor's lounge, a glorified broom closet with a heater that sometimes worked. "Sit here," he said, pulling out the one padded chair. The girl obeyed without a word. The rabbit clutched tight against her coat. Ethan knelt by the heater and twisted the knob until it groaned to life. Up close, she was paler than he'd thought. The shadows under her eyes were deep, not just from cold, but from something older, waiting, perhaps, or worry. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Lila." "Lila," he repeated, letting it sit on his tongue like something fragile. "That's a good name." She didn't answer, just stroked the rabbit's torn ear. The silence between them felt like a tightrope. Ethan stood, rubbing the back of his neck. "I've got some hot chocolate mix in the cupboard. It's not fancy, but... At the word chocolate, her eyes flickered. Not quite a smile, but something close. He poured water from the thermos he kept for long nights, stirred the packet until it frothed, then set the steaming cup in front of her. Her small hands wrapped around it like it was a treasure. Watching her sip, Ethan's thoughts drifted where they always did when a child's eyes met his that way. Back to Emily. Back to the little girl who used to wait for him by the school gates, red scarf trailing, backpack too heavy for her small shoulders. His daughter, 9 years old now, living 3 towns over with her mother, his ex-wife, because his night shifts and missed birthdays had finally driven the wedge too deep. He'd promised Emily, the last time they sat across from each other in the diner with the squeaky booths, that he'd get his life together. "I'll be around more," he'd said. "No more letdowns." And here he was, alone in a half-lit building at midnight, a stranger's child shivering in his chair. He rubbed his temples. Life had a way of testing the promises you made to the people you loved. "Lila," he said quietly, "do you know what floor your mum was on? Or what she looks like?" She shook her head. There were lots of people, and music, and food that smelled funny. A party, corporate no doubt. One of those year-end deals where the higher-ups brought champagne and forgot everyone else. Ethan crouched again. "Okay. Then here's what I'll do. I'll walk you through each floor until we find her, all right? We'll keep you warm in between. No more sitting in the stairwell." She nodded. Her lips trembled, but this time it wasn't from the cold. As she finished the cocoa, Ethan checked his watch. Almost 1 a.m. His shift ended at 2, and by then the building would be locked down. If her parents or whoever she came with weren't found, he'd have to make a call. To whom, though? Security? Police? Child services? The thought made his gut twist. He grabbed his jacket from the hook and draped it over her shoulders. It hung like a blanket on her small frame. "Better?" She nodded again, rabbit tucked under one arm, mug clutched in the other. "Good." He forced a small smile. "Stick close to me. This place has too many corners." As they stepped out, the hallway lights flickered, the kind of flicker that made every reflection in the glass look like it wanted to move. Ethan didn't notice the security camera above them tilt, just slightly, following their path. Somewhere in the building, someone was still awake. They made their way to the elevator, the hum of the machinery echoing in the late-night hush. Lila's hand stayed tight in Ethan's, her small steps quick to match his stride. Each floor they passed was dark except for the glow of screens in a few offices, forgotten monitors left on, half-finished presentations still open. Ethan pressed for the 10th floor, the executive level. If there was any chance her parents were still around, it'd be there. The party she described, fancy food, music, sounded like something only the upper floors bothered to host. The doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing a corridor lined with glass offices and polished wood. It smelled faintly of perfume and spilled champagne. Balloons still bobbed weakly near the ceiling, and a catering cart leaned abandoned by the wall, half its dishes scraped clean. "Stay close," Ethan murmured. Lila nodded, clutching the rabbit. They'd barely taken a few steps when a voice rang out from the far end. "You! What are you doing here?" A man emerged from one of the glass offices, suit jacket slung over his shoulder, tie undone. His face was sharp, clean-shaven, with the kind of eyes that measured people before deciding if they mattered. Ethan straightened instinctively, the mop handle in his hand suddenly feeling like contraband. Found her in the stairwell, figured she got separated. The man's gaze flicked to Lila. Something unreadable passed over his expression. Recognition, disbelief, then quickly it was gone. "She's not supposed to be here." "Well, she is," Ethan said, more firmly than he intended. "And she's freezing." The man stepped closer. "Do you know who I am?" "No," Ethan said flatly. "Do you know her?" The silence stretched. Lila shifted closer to Ethan, fingers tightening on his sleeve. "I'm Nicholas Valen," the man said finally, "CEO of this company." Ethan let that hang in the air a moment, then shrugged. "Congratulations, she's still a kid who got left behind." Valen's eyes narrowed, but he crouched down to Lila's level. "Where's your mother? Your father?" Lila stared at him, lips parting as if to answer. But no sound came. Her eyes darted to Ethan. "She's scared," Ethan said. "Been cold for hours. Maybe try less boardroom, more human." Something in Valen's jaw twitched, but he straightened and motioned for them to follow. "My office. Now." Ethan didn't like the tone, but he also didn't like wandering with a child who might collapse any moment. He followed, every step echoing on the expensive flooring. Inside, the office was warm, too warm almost, lit by a single lamp and the city skyline beyond the glass. Valen closed the door behind them. "Sit," he said to Lila, then to Ethan. "And you? Why are you even here? Night staff should have cleared out 2 hours ago." Ethan leaned on the mop. "Janitor, I was finishing my route. And you just happened to find a child." "I didn't happen to. I looked. Because nobody else did." For a long moment they stared at each other. Then Valen turned his attention back to Lila. "You came with someone to this building. Who?" Lila fidgeted. "They said, wait here. They'd come back." "Who said that?" Valen pressed. Lila shrank. Ethan stepped in. "Hey, ease up." Valen's gaze flicked to him again, calculating, appraising. "You don't know what's going on here. Then explain it." Valen didn't. Not yet. He poured a glass of water from a decanter, handed it to Lila, and finally said, "She's not supposed to be seen in this building, not by anyone." Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means you're already in too deep." The room felt smaller all of a sudden, the glass walls like a cage. Somewhere below, the elevator dinged, someone else moving in the building. Ethan's grip tightened on the mop handle. He didn't like the way Valen was looking at the girl, not cruel, not kind, just strategic, like she was a variable in an equation. And in that moment, Ethan knew, leaving her was not an option. Ethan shifted his weight, leaning the mop handle against the wall. "Too deep?" he echoed. "All I did was pick her up before the night swallowed her." Valen paced behind his desk, fingers running along the polished edge. "You don't understand the circles this building keeps. The people upstairs, they don't like complications." "She's a child, not a complication," Ethan said. "She's freezing, hungry, and whoever was supposed to take care of her didn't." Lila watched them both, her small hands wrapped around the glass of water. Her shoulders rose and fell with shallow breaths, eyes darting to the door as if half expecting someone else to come through it. "Who left you here?" Ethan asked her, softer this time. "Do you remember?" She opened her mouth. A sound started, then stopped. Her lips pressed the button, and she shook her head. "She won't say," Valen muttered. "She never does." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, never?" Valen turned then, the city lights framing him like a silhouette, carved out of cold steel. "Because this isn't the first time." The words hung in the room, heavier than they should have been. "She's been here before," Ethan pressed. "Not exactly." Valen exhaled, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "She shows up in places she shouldn't be. Always quiet, always waiting, and always someone finds her. Never the same person twice." Lila's fingers tightened on the rabbit. Ethan crouched to meet her eyes. "Is that true?" She hesitated, then whispered, "They said it's safer if I stay quiet." "Who said that?" Ethan asked. Her eyes darted to Valen again. "The ones with the coats." Valen's jaw hardened. "Enough," he said sharply, and Lila flinched. Ethan rose, slow and deliberate. "You're scaring her." "You think I'm the threat here?" Valen shot back. "You think Janitor's hours make you her savior? You don't know what's hunting her." The room felt colder suddenly. Somewhere in the distance, a door slammed. The building was not empty after all. "Then tell me," Ethan said. "Who's hunting her?" Valen stepped closer, voice low. "People who pay more in a single meeting than you make in a year's work. People who think children like her are assets." Ethan's stomach turned. "She's not an asset. She's a person. Try convincing them of that." Lila tugged at Ethan's sleeve. Her voice was barely a breath. "Can we leave?" Ethan looked down at her, then at the CEO. You hear that? She doesn't want to stay. You can't just walk out, Valen said. There are protocols. Ethan's hand closed around the mop handle, the old wood familiar in his grip. I don't care about your protocols. Valen studied him for a long moment. There was something calculating in his gaze, but not entirely cold anymore. You're either brave, he said finally, or very, very foolish. Maybe both. The elevator chimed again. This time the sound was closer, but steps followed, measured, deliberate. Lila's knuckles went white around her rabbit. They're here, she whispered. Who? Ethan asked. She didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the office door. Valen moved to the glass wall, looking out. If you want to protect her, Janitor, he said without turning, you'll need more than a mop. Ethan glanced around the office. No keys, no phone, nothing that screamed escape route. Only the door behind them, and the man between them and the city skyline. Then start talking, Ethan said. Who is she? And why does it feel like we're in a trap? For a moment, only the hum of the city filled the room. Then Valen spoke, quiet but deliberate. Because she's not supposed to exist. 3 sharp raps against the glass door, echoing down the marble corridor outside the CEO's office. Lila flinched so hard she almost dropped her rabbit. Ethan stepped instinctively between her and the sound, his mop handle now gripped like a staff. Valen's jaw tightened. Stay calm, he said. They don't need a reason to make this ugly. Who is it? Ethan asked. The CEO didn't answer. He just straightened his cuffs and moved toward the door. His shoes clicked softly on the floor, but his shoulders carried a weight that betrayed tension beneath the tailored calm. Another knock. This one slower, louder. Lila's whisper barely carried to Ethan's ear. Don't let them take me. His heart thumped once, hard. I won't, he whispered back. The words surprised him, not because he didn't mean them, but because of how certain they felt leaving his mouth. Valen cracked the door open. 3 men stood outside, black coats, sharp ties, the kind of faces that smiled without warmth. One held a tablet, another an envelope. The third's hand hovered just inside his jacket. Is she here? The one with the tablet asked, not bothering with greetings. Who? Valen's voice was flat. Don't stall us, said the one with the envelope. The girl. Ethan felt Lila press against his leg. He rested a hand on her shoulder, steady but firm. She's not yours to question. Question, Valen said. The third man stepped closer, his shoes whispering over the carpet. And she's not yours to keep. Ethan moved without thinking, just a half step forward, but enough for them to notice. She's a child, he said, and you're scaring her. All 3 turned their eyes on him at once. For a moment, the room felt like a trap set to snap. Who's this? The tablet man asked. Maintenance, Valen said quickly. He found her. The envelope man smirked. Then he can hand her over. No, Ethan said. It was quiet after that, quiet like a held breath before a storm. Excuse me? The man asked. I said no. Valen closed the door halfway, blocking their view. Give us a moment, he murmured. It wasn't a request, but the men didn't push. They just waited, shadows against the frosted glass. Valen turned back to Ethan. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Yeah, Ethan said. I'm doing the only decent thing in this building tonight. The CEO's lips pressed into a thin line. They'll make this hard on you. Let them try. Lila tugged his sleeve. Can we go now? Ethan looked at her, at the faint dirt smudge across her cheek, the rabbit's torn ear clutched in her hand. She didn't look like trouble. She looked like a kid who'd been left too many times. He bent down, voice low. We're leaving, he said. Stay close. Valen watched them head for the back stairwell. You don't have a plan, he called. Never needed one, Ethan said over his shoulder. Just need a door. But as his hand reached for the push bar, a hiss of static filled the office behind them. A voice, flat, metallic, spilled from the speaker on Valen's desk. Unit 3, hold your position. Extraction team en route. Do not engage. Ethan froze. Extraction team. He turned to Valen. What does that mean? The CEO didn't answer right away. His gaze flicked to the door, too, then to the child, then to the mop still clutched in Ethan's grip. "It means," Valen said slowly, "you've got less than 3 minutes to stop being a janitor." The stairwell door creaked open, and a cold rush of air swept up from below. It smelled faintly of bleach and concrete, a janitor's scent, his world. Ethan held it open with one arm and ushered Lila through first. Her small hand clutched the railing as they started down. Behind them, the office door clicked shut. No voices followed. Not yet. "Ethan," Lila whispered, "are they bad men?" He kept his eyes on the grey steps spiraling downward. "They're men who forgot what's right," he said. "That's bad enough." The emergency lights flickered. Somewhere below, a door banged open. Echoes climbed the stairwell like a warning bell. He quickened their pace. "Stay close to me, kiddo. One flight at a time." They reached the second-floor landing when a voice rang out from above. "Maintenance! Stop right there." Ethan glanced up. 2 silhouettes framed in the steel doorway. Dark coats. Same men. His grip on the mop handle tightened. He'd left the bucket behind, but the stick felt like something more now. An anchor. A choice. "Go," he murmured to Lila. "Down." She hesitated, eyes wide. "But—" "Down, Lila." She went. The men started down after them. "You don't know who you're helping," one called. Ethan didn't answer. He waited until they were halfway down the flight, then swung the mop handle low and hard into the railing. The clang echoed through the stairwell, enough to make them flinch, enough to buy a second. He bolted. 2 flights blurred past. His boots caught the grit on the landing, nearly slipping. Lila stumbled once, but he caught her shoulder before she fell. "Almost there," he said, though he didn't know where there was. They burst out onto the service level, a dim corridor lined with supply closets and loading bay doors. The night pressed against the high windows. Snow hissed along the concrete outside. Lila's breath came in puffs. "Why are they chasing me?" she asked. Ethan knelt to her height. "Because you matter," he said. "Sometimes that's enough to make the wrong people move." She blinked at him, the rabbit dangling by its torn ear. "What about you?" she asked. "They'll be mad at you now." "Let them," he said. A shadow stretched at the far end of the hall, one of the men moving fast. Ethan rose. He placed his hand on the push bar of the loading dock door. "Listen, Lila," he said. "You're not mine. I get that. But until I find the person who's supposed to be here, I am the wall. You stay behind it." She nodded slowly. Her lip trembled, but she nodded. He shoved the door open. Cold slammed into them, Montana night, hard and sharp. Snowflakes drifted through the dim light of the loading bay lamps. They stepped out. For a heartbeat, it was silent. The city below was still awake, but here, at the edge of its glass towers, there was only wind. Behind him the footsteps grew louder. "Ethan, halt!" the voice barked. "Last warning." He turned slightly, enough for his voice to carry back through the doorway. "She's not mine," he said, "but I'll protect her." And then he pulled the door shut. Snow licked at the pavement, thin sheets whispering against the empty loading dock. Ethan pulled the door shut behind them, muffling the echo of hurried footsteps inside. For a second, there was only the hum of a distant streetlight and the harsh pulse of winter air against his cheeks. Lila shivered. The rabbit clutched tight against her chest. Her coat was too thin, its zipper stuck halfway, and her breath came in short, sharp clouds. "Come here," Ethan said. She did. He shrugged out of his heavy work jacket, grey canvas, frayed at the cuffs, stitched one too many times, and draped it over her shoulders. It swallowed her whole. The sleeves dangled past her fingertips. "It's cold," she whispered. "I know. You'll be cold now. I've been colder." She looked up at him, eyes wide with something he didn't want to name. Trust, maybe, or something just as dangerous. He knelt, tugged the collar tight around her neck, and guided her toward the alley that snaked between the high-rise and the parking structure. The city beyond was alive but distant. Neon lights blinked in the snow haze. Tires hissed along wet asphalt 2 streets away. Here, shadows pooled deep and patient. "We need somewhere warm," he said. "Home?" she asked. He almost said yes, but the word caught in his throat. Not yet. They followed the alley until it opened near a shuttered diner, its sign dark, a single bulb humming above the service door. Ethan tried the handle. Locked. Lila rubbed her hands together beneath his jacket. "Why do they want me?" He leaned against the wall, scanning the street. "People like that don't always need a reason. Sometimes you're just the piece they forgot to count." Her face scrunched in thought. "That's a bad reason." "Yeah, it is." A bus rolled past at the corner, splashing slush. Ethan's fingers itched for his phone. His daughter would be home by now, probably pacing the kitchen, homework untouched. He imagined her voice. "Dad, you said you'd be back by 8. It was nearly midnight." "Do you have a kid?" Lila asked suddenly. Ethan blinked. "Yeah, I do. She's lucky." The words hit harder than the wind. He looked down at her, a kid lost in a city that didn't care, wearing his jacket like armor. "Not sure she'd agree tonight," he said softly. From the far end of the street came the growl of an engine. Headlights swept the brick, too slow for a passing car. He crouched low. "Stay behind me," he murmured. The black sedan crawled past, windows tinted, no plates in front. It didn't stop. Didn't have to. Just a warning. "We're still looking." When the taillights faded, Ethan exhaled through his teeth. "All right. Change of plan." He guided her down another side street toward a laundromat he remembered from late shifts, a place that stayed open for truckers and ghosts. As they walked, Lila tugged at the too long sleeve. "Are you scared?" she asked. He thought about it. The men in black coats, the voice over the speaker, the weight of a mop handle that suddenly felt like a weapon. His own daughter waiting, the clock ticking. "Yeah," he admitted. "But scared doesn't mean stop." Her small fingers found his for a moment. A quick grip, then gone. The laundromat's neon sign buzzed to life as they neared. Open 24 HRS. Warmth spilled through the glass. Inside, rows of empty machines, a lone attendant asleep behind the counter, radio humming low. Ethan pushed the door open. Heat wrapped around them. "Sit here," he said, pointing to a bench. "Warm up. I'll find us something to drink." Lila slid onto the bench, rabbit in her lap, jacket still huge around her. Outside, snow kept falling. Inside, for the first time that night, it was quiet enough to breathe. The laundromat smelled faintly of soap and scorched lint. Machines churned quietly, their doors like slow, blinking eyes. Lila sat on the bench, the sleeves of Ethan's jacket draped far past her knees, her rabbit perched upright beside her as though keeping watch. Ethan leaned against the counter, a paper cup of hot cocoa cooling in his hands. He'd found it in the vending machine, too sweet, barely warm, but better than nothing. Lila sipped at hers, steam fogging her lashes. "Better?" he asked. She nodded, lips leaving a faint cocoa moustache. "Better." For a moment, it almost felt normal. Late-night cocoa, humming machines, the world held at bay by thin glass and neon light. Then the bell above the door chimed. Ethan turned. She was smaller than he expected. The woman who stepped inside was bundled in a wool coat, hair damp with melting snow, eyes scanning the room with the sharpness of a blade. Her gloves were torn at the fingertips, her breath came in fast, shallow bursts. And when she saw the cheese, her voice cracked like thawing ice. "Lila." The girl slid off the bench so fast the rabbit fell to the floor. "Mama!" They collided in the middle of the laundromat. The woman dropped to her knees, clutching her daughter so tightly Ethan wondered if either of them could breathe. Tears cut clean lines down her wind-burned cheeks. "I looked everywhere," she whispered. "Everywhere." Lila clung to her coat. "I was cold." "I know, baby, I know." Ethan stood still, hands loose at his sides. Relief crawled through his chest, but it didn't ease the knot in his stomach. This wasn't the end of it. Not with the black sedan outside, not with the men in dark coats moving through the city like smoke. The woman looked up at him then. Her eyes were the same dark amber as Lila's. "Are you the one who—" "Found her by the executive offices," he said. "She was alone." "I had to work late," the woman said quickly, voice tight. "They told me they'd watch her, just for an hour, and then—" Her throat worked. "Then she was gone." "Who's they?" Ethan asked. Her eyes flicked to the window where snow blurred the streetlights. "You don't want to know." "I already do," he said. She hesitated, then rose, one hand still gripping her daughter's. "My name's Sophia. Thank you for not leaving her." Ethan shrugged. Didn't seem like she had much choice tonight. Sophia's gaze softened for a heartbeat. "Neither did you." The bell chimed again. This time the cold came in with it. Ethan's muscles tightened. But it wasn't the black coats. It was Valen. The CEO stood just inside the door, snow speckling his tailored sleeves, expression unreadable. "You found her," he said to Sophia. "Yes," she breathed. "Thanks to him." Valen's eyes shifted to Ethan. "Do you know what kind of fire you just walked into?" "I know I walked a kid out of a freezing building," Ethan said. "Sophie's." Stiffened. "Is it over?" Valen shook his head. "No, they're circling." Lila pressed her face into her mother's coat. "Can we go home now?" "Not yet," Valen said quietly. "Home's the first place."